In this video, we'll dive deep into the most effective treatment solutions for your well water, offering you a comprehensive guide to transforming your well water from a constant headache into a source of great, clean, fresh water throughout the house. We'll explore cutting-edge methods for tackling common well water issues like iron and sulfur contamination, eliminating harmful bacteria, and removing sediment and other impurities. Hi, my name is Jerry, WK Certified Master Water Specialist. Welcome back to our channel, where we help you solve your water problems and get clean, safe water throughout the house. So the first part is bacteria and microorganisms such as Giardia, Cryptosporidium, and other protozoa. Obviously, you don't want to find these in your water. They're not naturally occurring in groundwater, and they can cause all kinds of health problems, so you want to avoid those. That's why we recommend yearly testing for coliform bacteria, which is an indicator that your water could be potentially have more serious bacterial problems. The next one is heavy metals. Heavy metals, some such as iron and manganese, are not really a health threat, although there is some indication that excess iron and manganese in the water is not good for your health, but it's more of a staining or aesthetic issue. But some heavy metals such as arsenic, lead, and cadmium, of course, can be severe health issues, so you don't want to have those in your well water. Those can be naturally occurring as well. Chemical contaminants such as pesticides, herbicides, or other chemicals that are introduced by agriculture or industry obviously can lead to cancer and other problems, so you don't want any of those in your water. They're not naturally occurring, so those are easy to test for and identify. Hard water minerals is an aesthetic issue, so that would build up in your pipes, cause your water heater and your appliances to fail early. So those you want to avoid and have an ideal level. You don't want them too hard. Some people don't want it too soft either, so there's kind of a good ideal level for hardness minerals. Sediment and turbidity. This is one of the major complaints that most people have because it's something they can see, cause all kinds of aesthetic issues. Sediment can plug up your fixtures, your aerators, and ruin your clothing and cause plumbing problems, so that's a common one. Radon and other gases is the last kind of major group, and you can't smell it or taste it. You just have to test for it. It's not in all areas of the country, but there are some areas where it's more common than others, and so it's a good idea because if you have water high in radon and you're showering in it, you're breathing in the radon gas, then you dramatically increase your risk of lung cancer. So when you're looking to figure out what kind of treatment system to solve the particular problem, there's several criteria that we look at. First thing is what the type of contaminant it is. So again, we talked about it. You want to identify and test for the specific contaminants in your well water through water testing. And then you want to consider the concentration levels and accept the appropriate capacity. So for instance, you might test positive for arsenic, but it's such a low level that you might consider, well, I'm just going to put in a point of use system at the sink. It's not really that big of a deal. It's very low levels, far under what the EPA guideline is, but it's still there, so I don't want to drink it, but I don't care if I shower in it. And that's a common thing. So you want to look at what are the levels of contaminants, because just because it's there doesn't mean you necessarily have to spend a lot of money in treating it through the whole house. The next thing you want to determine is water usage. So for instance, you want to know how much water do I use and how many gallons per minute do I need? Because all the different types of treatment systems come in different sizes. So you don't want to get one that's too small that'll cut back on your water pressure, but you also don't want to spend money to get one that's too big for nothing. So you want to consider how much water do I use per day and how many gallons per minute am I using, which is all very easy to find out. The other thing you want to consider with treatment systems is what maintenance is involved. Am I putting in a cartridge filter that I'm going to have to fight every week or every month? Am I putting in some other kind of system that's going to require a lot of maintenance? What maintenance is required? So the maintenance is important, particularly if you're doing it yourself. Or if you're hiring somebody too, then it's an added cost. So you want to figure out with this particular system, what kind of maintenance is it? Because sometimes, for instance, a whole house automatic sediment filter system over a period of 3 years might be much cheaper than getting a cartridge filter and having to wrestle and change it every week or month. By the way, one way you can easily find out what is in your water and to get the testing done, you can use a home test kit. We have our easy well water test kit. that has a TDS meter. You can test for many years to come from one kit, and it also tests for the most common contaminants. However, if you're looking for a laboratory analysis and you need to test for heavy metals or other types of contaminants, we recommend our Simple Lab test kit. It's a laboratory test. You fill up the samples and you can send it away. Get results back within about a week. To get either one of these test kits, click the link in the description below. So in general, with well water treatment systems, there's 9 major types of systems available. So let's just go through each one and get an overview of what they are. The first one is sediment filters. These remove physical contaminants such as sand, silt, and clay. When we talk about these type of filters, what we're talking about are either centrifugal sand separators that separate out sand, spin down filters where they're like a screen that you can flush. It's like a screen that'll take out sand and silt, or cartridge filters. And that's, a lot of people are very familiar with these cartridge filters, commonly sold Home Depot. A lot of water treatment guys sell these. They're we call them big blue filters. They're different sizes, but basically it's a cartridge filter, usually 4.5 by 10 or 4.5 by 20, very commonly used to remove sediment. And this is generally often used as a first line of defense to protect other treatment systems from clogging and damage. And it's also a low-cost way to filter out sand and sediment. However, they can cause pressure loss if you get, depending on your situation, how much sediment you have. The next group is activated carbon filters. These are available as a cartridge or as a tank of loose activated carbon. Cartridges have granular carbon or it's carbon block. They're really appropriate for point of use. They do make them for the whole house, but generally they don't last very long and they can cause pressure loss. So we recommend them for more point of use, say under the sink. These systems do a great job removing tastes, odors, and chemicals, organic compounds, and they're very dependent on the size of the carbon system and the flow rate. So basically, it depends on what's the contaminant in the water, what's the concentration of the contaminant, and what's the physical size. So how much time the water has in contact with the carbon in order to remove the PFAS or forever chemicals or whatever, if you're using it for that, or some kind of organic compound. It's very dependent on the flow rate. The next one is reverse osmosis systems. These are very common. Most commonly in the US, people use them under the sink. These remove the salts from the water, so inorganic salts, the total dissolved solids. They also remove heavy metals, and they're usually combined. The reverse osmosis system, it has a membrane that removes the salts, but it also combined with other filters, including carbon filtration. So you get a compact package that removes a wide range of contaminants, such as heavy metals, minerals, makes the water taste great. Some folks need to have a bigger commercial system for the whole house. If their water is so high in dissolved solids, high in salts, then they get a system for their whole house where this reverse osmosis system will fill a tank with pure water, and then they have clean water throughout the house. The next type is ultraviolet or UV sterilizers. These disinfect the water. The water flows through the UV chamber, it shines into the water, and essentially inactivates the DNA of the bacteria. So it's, in a sense, killing the bacteria as the water flows through. They work great at disinfection, provided the water is clean, it's soft, it's not full of minerals. So as long as the water can, the UV light can transmit into the water correctly, and the flow is not too great, so it's sized, the flow rate is sized for a particular size UV sterilizer, then they're very effective as they inactivate the bacteria, but they don't add any chemicals into the water. The next group is ion exchange systems. Most folks know about ion exchange systems if they have a water softener. The water softeners have little ion exchange resin beads in there, and it pulls out the calcium and substitutes sodium ion. So the calcium is causing problems with mineral scale buildup, but the sodium ion doesn't, and it's very low levels, so it's not toxic or anything. But then their ion exchange resin lasts for many years, and is very, very effective. We also use ion exchange resin to remove nitrate, sulfate, and other contaminants from well water. And there are many different kinds of ion exchange resins. The next very common system that we use are what we call oxidation filtration systems. So all oxidation is you're adding oxygen into the water to get an oxidation result of some contaminant. So for instance, your water might come out of the ground, it looks totally clear, but it tastes like rusty nails because it's full of iron. So what we're doing is with oxidation and filtration, the water is being oxidized, the dissolved iron in the water is turned into a rust particle that then the filter media in the iron filter can remove. So it's oxidation and filtration often happening in one system. And there are various types of systems that do this. Some inject air into the water, some inject ozone. A lot of the filter media that's used for oxidation filtration involves some kind of manganese dioxide media. So we have green sand or pro-ox or different kinds of oxidating iron filter media that when the water comes in contact with the media, it immediately oxidizes. So the media itself is an oxidizer. And these are very effective at removing odor, hydrogen sulfide, iron and manganese, and just do a great job. A lot of well waters benefit from the oxidation filtration system. The next most common type of system we use are chemical injection systems. Essentially, in terms of for homeowners, for small wells and community systems, there's a little metering pump, a little dosing pump, that when the well turns on, our water's flowing, the little pump turns on, and injects a precise amount of chemical into the water. This is typically chlorine, so you're disinfecting the water with chlorine, killing bacteria, you're killing the odor, removing odor. Chlorine is a really great, low, cost-effective way as part of the chemical injection process. And usually with chlorine, the chlorine is injected, and then it kills the bacteria, and then the next stage is activated carbon to remove the chlorine before it goes into the house. Another very common chemical that we use with chemical injection is hydrogen peroxide. That's gotten really popular because unlike chlorine, it is sodium hypochlorite, so you're injecting some sodium in the water, and also there's a persistent residual, although it can be removed with carbon. With peroxide, when you're injecting the water, it immediately breaks down into oxygen and water. So you don't get any chemical residual with peroxide. It is more expensive than chlorine, but it's very effective for odor. That's the main thing we use hydrogen peroxide for, is removing sulfur odor in water. Very popular. It's not great for disinfection. We don't recommend it for killing bacteria, but it does work for odor and oxidizing the water prior to an iron filter. So say you have odor, iron, and manganese, you can inject hydrogen peroxide and you don't have to worry about any kind of chlorine chemicals, and then it completely is gone by the time it goes through the iron filter. Then other than that, there are various types of other chemical injection systems used in this type of home water treatment. Sometimes we inject citric acid to lower the pH. If people have very high pH, they might use citric acid. The other thing is if people are using a whole house reverse osmosis system, an industrial or commercial RO system, we inject anti-scalant ahead of the reverse osmosis system to prevent the membranes from getting ruined. So those are the main things we use chemical injection for, but it's an important part of a lot of home water treatment systems, and they're pretty low maintenance and very effective. The next common system we use are aeration systems, and these are very effective at removing volatile organic contaminants such as VOCs, also hydrogen sulfide gas, rotten egg smell, and also radon, the radioactive gas that you want to vent off before it comes in the house. So this would be a tank where the water is sprayed in and then it's actively vented off, usually by a duct that goes above your house. So it's a system where you're spraying the water in and then you're repressurizing it with another pump into the house. And we also have inline aeration systems that inject air either by a compressor or a venturi that sucks air in under pressure. And these inject air into the water, and then there's usually a vent to vent off the excess air. So by introducing the air into a lot of groundwater that's very low in oxygen, it really helps the whole treatment process. You get rid of the gases, and you increase oxygen in the water, so then your filtration system works better, particularly if you're removing iron and manganese. And the last major group of systems we use are whole house filtration systems. These are usually systems that have an automatic backwash feature, and they can be cleaned. They basically clean themselves automatically, as opposed to cartridge filters. So there are many different types depending on what kind of contaminant you're looking at. But say you have sediment, instead of changing a cartridge filter every month, you can have a sediment filter that'll last for many years and just turns on once a week and cleans itself out of all the sediment. There's also whole house activated carbon systems, whole house iron and manganese systems, and various types of whole house filtration systems that are very effective. Then there's also last, but another common whole house filtration system is ultrafiltration. So these will filter down to less than 1 micron, actually 0.015 microns, and remove everything except the dissolved minerals. So depending on your application and situation, there's a type of treatment system that's best for your application, depending on the level of contaminants and how much water you're trying to treat and the size of your household. So all these different type of treatment systems, how do you know which one to pick? How do you pick the right one? It comes down to the type of contaminants. So first thing, identify the specific contaminants in your well water through testing. The next is, what is the level of contamination? Consider the concentration levels and the select appropriate capacity based on your levels. The next is water usage. How many gallons per minute does your well pump produce? And how many gallons of water do you use per day? And this, you can estimate this very easily by how many bathrooms are in the home, how many folks live in the home, and also are you going to be treating your water for inside the home, which is most common, or also do you need to treat the water for irrigation? So how many gallons per day, and how many zones, and how many gallons per hour do you need for the irrigation? Another thing to consider is if you have a pool. Will you fill the pool with the water through the treatment system, or more commonly, will you just top off the water once the pool is filled? So those are all the considerations considering what your water usage is exactly. The next is maintenance requirements. Look and see the system. What type of system am I getting? How often will I have to maintain it? Do I have to change the filter cartridges regularly? Are there any, if I'm getting a water softener, how efficient is it? How much salt am I going to be adding per month to it? A lot of folks will get a water softener. They can go many months without having to add salt. Others might get one they have to add every month. If you get a filter cartridge system, you might suffer pressure loss and pressure drop in the home till you finally get around to changing it. So kind of figure out what is the maintenance, kind of project what's the maintenance. Again, very easy to do. Once you start out with what contaminant you have and the size of your home, then you can figure out based on the system, what's the maintenance going to be on it. And finally, you want to, of course, consider the cost. What is the cost of the equipment? What is the cost to install it? Can I install it myself? When it's installed, can I maintain it myself? Or am I going to have to hire a professional to do it? A lot of the systems that we offer, we specialize in, it is pretty much do it yourself. Not all of our customers, but most of our customers do install it themselves. And then the maintenance is fairly infrequent, so they do the maintenance as well. But you should consider that when you're evaluating, what kind of system you're going to get. Like, what's the upfront cost and what's the long-term cost? So choosing the right water treatment system involves understanding what contaminants in your water, and then getting the right system that'll work to address those specific contaminants for your water. And then regular testing and maintenance are essential for any type of water treatment system. If you ever see or have someone tell you, hey, you can set it and forget it, or it'll last for your whole life, there's no maintenance needed, that's not going to happen. So you have your own water, you have your own water source, you need to be on top of it, test the water regularly. It doesn't have to be every week or even every month, but periodically do your testing and then be on top of the maintenance. It might only take a few minutes a year, or other times might take an hour or two a year, but it doesn't have to be a lot of maintenance, but it's the routine, the regular maintenance and testing that's critical for your water system. Make sure your family has great water for many years to come. So I hope you enjoyed this overview of treatment systems for well water. I also created a whole series of other videos that go deeper in each one of these topics. Just click here and I'll see you on the next video.